Welcome. Today, me and my partner will be showing you what exactly is involved in sizing down a ring. We're going to go through the process step by step, and I think that you will find it quite interesting. Through the process, I will be explaining to you different characteristics of certain things to look out for when, we're doing this process, and I think you'll find it quite interesting. So, we are going to start with this beautiful engagement ring, which we made for a friend of ours. And unfortunately, it was made just a little too big for his lovely fiance. So we're going to be removing approximately 2 sizes off the bottom of the shank here. Now, what's important is when we do remove the gold, we want to make it non-visible. It's got to look factory, like it just came out of the showroom, and you can never tell that it was sized down. And that's exactly what we were going to achieve today, okay? In doing this, first things we have to do is we have to actually measure the amount of gold that we will be removing from the shank. Just for those of you who don't know, this part of the ring, the bottom area of the ring, is called the shank. Okay, so that's where we will be removing the gold. Okay. The ring is currently a 7.5, and we will be sizing it down to a 5.5. That is 2 full sizes. So on this mandrel here, we have a scale that shows you the amount of gold that must be removed in order to make it fit correctly. So we will use this compass and get the 2 sizes that are necessary to make fit. Now, what I like to do is I like to remove just a little bit less than what's important or mandatory to make the size fit, because there are other processes that we're going to be doing to the ring that will make it smaller as we're working on it. And I'll explain to you as we get there, okay? So right now we are going to be cutting the shank with the saw, which actually needs a new blade because it's kind of dull. Gold is a soft metal and generally cuts fairly easily. The saw blade does tend to dull out with time, so jeez. Excuse me. We have since removed the piece of gold, and that is approximately the amount that we need to make this smaller in order for the ring to fit her correctly. Now, the reason I didn't take off as much gold as I needed to is because, as you can see here on the sides, they are a little rough and you have little jagged pieces of gold that remain on the shank. So what we do now is we take what is called a sanding wheel, and we're just going to flatten it out and get them nice and straight so that we can minimize the amount of solder that is used in the seam. Now, the reason that you want to minimize the amount of solder that is in the seam, because many people don't know this, is that even though we're using 14 karat gold solder, solder tends to be more brittle than standard gold because it has to melt at a lower temperature. So the solder is more brittle, therefore the less you use, the better off it will be. Sometimes you'll see that after your ring has been sized, occasionally it can crack, and that's usually because they use a little bit too much of the brittle solder. So we're going to avoid that. So now we're sanding down the sides a little bit, and we got the exact amount that we need. And now we are going to actually bend the ring gently until we get the shank touching each other. So there's several tools that we could use. I'm going to use this one first and gently squeeze around the entire perimeter of the ring and try and maintain the roundness. And then we'll turn it and we'll do the same to the other side. And as you can see, it brings it right just about to where we need. And I will close it a little bit more manually with a pair of pliers to get it touching. There we go. So the ring, as you can see, is almost totally round again. Okay, so now we have the ring lined up, the hairline seam very, very, very tight. Okay, and we're going to put it in a flux. Now what the flux does is it makes the solder flow very smoothly into all crevices of the ring. And we'll get a nice clean solder, a nice clean weld. For this particular ring in white gold, I do like to use 14 karat white hard. They have a soft and they have a hard solder. The hard tends to hold a little better on the white gold. So we heat the metal up a little bit. We're gonna take some of the 14 karat gold hard solder, which turns into a little pellet, as you can see. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust my flame. My propane is off. Now that we have the seam welded really nicely, we are going to sand the inside of the ring and get it ready for polish. Get it nice and smooth. We want to make sure that there's no lumps or anything left inside where that seam was welded. Then we'll take a sanding disc and just remove just a little bit, just to get it nice and flat, which you can see looks perfect, factory. And then the outside of the ring, again, just a little sand to get that nice and smooth. Now, if you look closely, you cannot see the weld. It's perfect. And next step is ready for polish. So I hope you've seen our polishing videos. We're not going to go through that, but I will show you the after picture of the shank so you can see just how nicely it came out. So we just finished polishing the ring and roading it, and it came out perfect. As you can see in the shank, there's not one blemish, not one bump, nothing. The sides of the ring, inside of the ring, it's all perfect. Our goal is to strive for perfection so that you cannot tell the ring was ever touched. And in this case, we hit the jackpot. And the customer's gonna be very happy with the product. Hope you found it interesting and stay tuned for our next one.